everyone, welcome to On Monica's Shelves. I am so excited you're here because we're setting off on a brand new adventure today. It is the beginning of the year, which means that it is time for everyone to start sharing all of their favorite book lists from last year. And this is such a fun time because it means you get to see the top books that everybody has posted, and you get to find other people who have similar tastes as you, who loved the same books you did, but you also get to find new books that you might love because other people who read similarly to you also loved them. And yeah, it doesn't always work, but the goal is always to find brand new favorites for yourself. And so I decided to go ahead and pick some of my favorite booktubers, and I'm going to be picking some select books from their top book lists, and I am going to be reading them for myself and documenting the entire journey. I did this last year and it ultimately ended up working out pretty well for me, so I'm hoping that this year is going to go just as well. But we are going to set off on this journey together, and I have a really fun way of how I'm going to be selecting the books as I read them and like what order I'm going in. So we are going to jump over to my Plinko board because Plinko is going to have a very big part in helping me decide my TBR for this vlog. So I have with me here my Plinko board, which I use for TBR Plinko a lot of the times, but it also helps me with my vlogs, and I really want to fit it in for my booktube favorites. So I'm going to walk you through how this process is going to look, and then I'm going to do my very first drop so we can decide what book I'm starting with for this. And honestly, I'm really excited about this. I'm also nervous because I want to love all of these books because I'm picking them for very specific reasons. So let's go into how this is going to work. Essentially, I'm going to drop a Plinko chip down the board, and I have numbers 1 through 7 at the bottom here, and whatever it lands in, I have an array of books down below here. You can't see them yet, but I will show you what they are. But what I'm going to do is basically whatever spot the Plinko chip lands in, that's the book that I'm going to read as they are aligned down below. And each book I have selected because it appears on a certain booktuber's favorites list. And once I pick the book, I will let you know what booktuber I'm thinking of as I am picking up this book. And I will link their video in the description for their favorites list so you can see where that pick had come from in the first place. So let's go over what the books that I have here are. I did mention that there are 7, so we're going to have 7 books to choose from for this very first drop. The first one up is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Then we have The Wind Weaver by Julie Johnson. Next up is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. I have Slow Gods from Claire North. I have Warrior Princess Assassin by Bridget Kemmerer. I have The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. And as the final book, I don't have it physically, but I do have an ebook of Obsidian Sky by Jill Astor. So those are the 7 options that we have. I have them all lined up in order right below, so I know as soon as I get the number which book it's going to be. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and do my first drop, and it'll be the first book that I read for this video. We're dropping it right from the middle to be fair. And we landed on number 6. Number 6 is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. And this book I am super excited to read. This is kind of a sequel / companion novel to The Spell Shop. I gave 5 stars last year, so I'm definitely really excited, and honestly I'm feeling pretty confident about this one as well. This book came off of the favorites list from Kristen Crave's books, and I'm super excited to read this because I feel like Kristen and I have some pretty similar opinions when it comes to books. A lot of the times when she is talking about books she loves or hates, I have very similar alignments, so the fact that she loved this book makes me feel really excited to read it. So this is the one I'm going to start off on. So I am going to go ahead and get started and jump right into this book as we try out all of these booktuber favorites. Okay, so I know I'm back really soon, and I don't have an update on The Enchanted Greenhouse yet, and it's because I realized I don't have access to the audiobook, but I will have access to it literally within the next couple of days. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting to get the audio, because I have the physical obviously, but I do really like immersive reading, so in the interim, until I get the audiobook, I am going to go ahead and move into my next drop and figure out what the next book is going to be, and then as soon as I get The Enchanted Greenhouse available, I'll jump into that one. Alrighty, so the chip fell into slot number 5, and the slot number 5 book is going to be Warrior Princess Assassin by Bridget Kemmerer. This one I have selected from Vanessa from Read with Dr. B, and I am super excited to try this one. It will be my first Bridget Kemmerer book, which is really exciting. This is her adult debut, which is also really cool because she's written a lot of YA fantasy and romantasy. So this one is super exciting to start, and this is the Fairy Loot edition. edition. So I also just love a really pretty book. Let's take a moment to appreciate some of the beautiful artwork in here and the absolutely breathtaking naked hardcover. I love a good naked hardcover, so I'm very excited to read this book and see how much I love it. And I got this specifically, I mentioned that it was from Vanessa's list. Vanessa's list I did find on Instagram, but I absolutely love Vanessa. She is so sweet, and I am super excited to try out this book from her list. So let's go ahead and dive in and get to reading. I am 30% of the way through Warrior Princess Assassin, so let's talk about the book so far because I am obsessed. I am in love with this story up to the point where I am right now. And when I tell you that last night I was reading this book super late, I was like practically falling asleep in my chair. But if I hadn't been about to fall asleep, I would have stayed up all night to read this book. It was so good. And the characters are so fascinating. And ultimately, the writing in here is so, so good. I definitely am a fan of Bridget Kemmer's writing. Just like everything feels natural and it flows so well. I just love the writing in here. So we're off to a fantastic start, but the story itself is also so captivating. I love this. I was a little nervous going into it because I read a romantasy last year that had a very similar setup at the very beginning, and I wondered if the plot was going to end up being similar, but it's not. So I am just so in love with everything that is happening in this book. So we have three main characters. Based on the title, it's not too much of a surprise to know that there is a warrior, there is a princess, and there is an assassin. Our warrior is the king. Kai is seeking an alliance with a neighboring kingdom because his people are in need of more resources, they are starving, and like things are just not going super well. And he is looking to take care of his kingdom by entering into an arranged marriage with another kingdom. And in comes the arranged bride, Princess Marjoriana. Jory is our princess character, and she agrees to this arranged marriage with Kai because she ultimately wants to protect her people. She wants to make sure that her kingdom is provided for, and they also need a line of defense with another kingdom. So they are entering into this alliance with these two, technically, I don't want to say like enemy kingdoms, but they basically are enemy kingdoms entering into an alliance together. The thing is that Kai is very, very feared because of his fire magic that he has, and nobody truly really understands that fire magic, and so everybody just fears this man. And Jory does too. She agrees to the arranged marriage, which is forced upon her basically by her brother, and she agrees to it because she wants to protect her people. But once she meets Kai, she realizes he is not what she expected. He is so fiercely protective of his people, just like she is, and she can tell from the minute that she meets him that he is not this like feared, aggressive kind of warrior that can't be trusted and doesn't care about people. And so she starts to kind of question this public perception that everybody has of him and realizes that maybe this arranged marriage isn't going to be such a bad arrangement, except for the fact that in comes our third character, the assassin. Asher is part of the Hunters Guild, which is a guild of assassins. So he definitely has this dark, sneaking, killer side of him that Jory definitely doesn't know the full extent of. But Jory and Asher have been friends since childhood. They are best friends, attached at the hip, but they also have a bit of an attraction to each other, and they have this kind of very fierce love and loyalty to one another. So when Asher gets his next mark and finds out that he is supposed to be killing not only his best friend Jory, but also her arranged husband, King Kai, yeah, things are going to be shaken up quite a bit. So instead of Asher killing both of them like he is supposed to, knowing that other assassins are now going to be sent after them if he fails, the three of them run away and are going to be on the run from these assassins. And that is where I am, and that is also where the synopsis ends too. If you read the synopsis of this book, that's basically what you're going to learn, because I am going to be in uncharted territory now past the 30% mark, which is super exciting, and I really, really love the exploration of the dynamics between these two. There is obvious attraction, chemistry, and tension all around this trio, and I'm really, really excited to see where that goes throughout the rest of the story. But on top of that, the plot of this arranged marriage that's going to ultimately lead to so much political tension, because now these two that were supposed to be getting married have disappeared, and what's going to happen to their kingdoms, I have no idea. But I'm really excited to jump back into this because this is so good. Just like the way everything was unfolding early on, we get to see so much of the characters in this early portion. I feel like a lot of the magic element hasn't really been explored too much. We know that Jory's family has a weather magic, but her dad has it and neither her nor her brother do. So that's kind of been a little bit of a mystery, like what exactly that entails. But the weather magic and the fire magic that Kai has are some of the main reasons why their kingdoms want to ally together. So I think it's going to be explored a lot more throughout the rest of the story. But the early setup is a lot of understanding where these characters are coming from and why they are all now looped together. And we get to see what goes on in their journey going forward. So I'm really excited to jump back into this today. I'm going to hopefully get quite a bit of reading done. So we shall see. And just like that, I am 73% of the way through Warrior Princessin, and I am having the absolute best time with this book. I am obsessed with everything about this book. The vibes are immaculate, and literally every single thing that's happening is incredible. I am loving this. I love all three of our main characters, and I love that we get to see their individual personalities shine a lot because we do get all three POVs from different chapters, and getting to see into each of their heads, and not just like the actions that they're taking and the decisions that they're making, but also the emotions that they're feeling and how it is all leading into this, not just tension, not just romance, but just this overall picture of like incredible romantasy work. It is so much fun and I love it, especially because I love getting to see the connections between all three of these characters grow on an individual basis and then also together as the three of them are battling it out mentally and emotionally within the confines of the situation they find themselves in. So they end up going on the run because of, assassins coming after both Kai and Jory, but they are going to find themselves in an even more dire situation, and later will find themselves on the road and traveling together once again with Kai's soldiers. And I love the dynamic with everybody here. There is a lot of tension because there's a lot of distrust, but working through that distrust and as the reader kind of understanding a little bit more of the motivations behind everything is so good because we know and they know, but not everybody knows everybody else's thoughts. So it's just so fun to get to watch it all be pieced together. And there are still things that we don't know, but I love getting to discover that along the way. But like ultimately the best part about this book, it is a romantasy, and the romance between these three characters is definitely the central point. And I love it. I love all three of them together because they do bring so much to the table from each of them. We get Kai's protectiveness. He definitely has this fierce sense of security in wanting to make sure that Asher and Jory are taken care of. Jory also feels the same way for both Asher and Kai, but she has this fierce protectiveness of her people as well. So she has the sense of duty that Kai can appreciate. And she also has this long loyalty to Asher because of the way that they grew up together. And Asher in the same way has that loyalty and connection with Jory, but you can also tell that he seeks this level of comfort and again like a sense of like a security blanket in Kai. And it's just watching them all revolve around each other, and like obviously there's going to be sparks of jealousy, there's going to be lingering looks and all of that like feeds into this chemistry and this tension, but it all works so well because they are revolving around and within each other, and it is just like such a beautiful dance between these three right now. And like things are still tense. Like I don't know what's going to happen through the end of this book. I can see where certain things are going. I do see where I'm assuming future plot points are kind of hinted at and like things that are going to unravel, but I'm literally obsessed. I am fully captivated by this book, and I will, if not finish tonight, I am definitely going to be finishing it within the next day because this is so good and I can't stop myself from reading it. It is so good. And the audiobook is also incredible. We do have 3 different narrators, one for each of the characters in their respective chapters. And so like this whole thing, like getting to immersive read this too, I think is also helping. It is just so incredibly good. So I'm really, really excited to be finishing this. But because I will also be finishing a book, I want to pick my next one so I know what's up next. I'm still waiting on the audiobook for the Enchanted Greenhouse, so that one's going to be pending for now. I will get to it as soon as I get the audio, but for now I do want to hold off on that. So I'm going to go ahead and do another Plinko drop so we can figure out what book is coming after this one. Also because I fear I may finish this book like tomorrow while I'm working and might not be able to do the Plinko drop right away. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it now. And so I can make sure that I also have access to an audiobook if I can, or, you know, have the physical book ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the drop. All right, so it is time to do another drop and figure out what book is going to be next up on my list. But before I can do the drop, I do have to add a book into the list since book number 5 was read last. Book number 5 is going to be replaced by American Rapture by CJ Lead. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on the pile and then go ahead to do the drop and see what the Plinko board is gonna decide as my next book to read. And book number 1 has won this round. So we are going to be, let's see if I can actually get the book off the stack here. Book number 1 is going to be Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this book is coming from Jordan from Sorry Book Solid's favorites list. And I'm super excited to read this. I have heard it's going to be a very emotional time, so I have to mentally prepare myself for that. However, I know so many people who have loved this book, and I have read from this author before and enjoyed it, so I do feel like this is going to go well. I am a little intimidated just because it's such a different tone from some of the other things I have been reading lately, but that's kind of what this is about, is getting a little bit more of an expanded book selection. So Atmosphere is going to be up next. Wish me luck, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab my tissues now. Oh my god, I cannot believe that right out of the gate, the very first book that I even tried to read here ended up being such a masterpiece. I am thoroughly obsessed with this book. Warrior Princess Assassin consumed me from the inside out, and I am absolutely on my knees for the next book. I need more immediately. Okay, this book took me on such a ride, and every single step of the way, it was perfect for me. I loved every dynamic, the political intrigue, so much of the danger and the risk and the things that were going on in this story. It was so perfectly tailored to the things that I love. Plus, we get one of the sweetest, cutest, but also fieriest kinds of romances between these 3 characters, and just getting to see the different connections between all of them. It is absolutely stunning. It's incredible. And I haven't stopped thinking about it. I finished this book late last night, and I genuinely had to sit with myself for a minute and be like, girl, are you good? Because I was speechless finishing this book, jaw on the floor and literally heart in my throat. Like, this was so good. And I think one of the things that I loved the most about it, because this is a romantasy with a very, very heavy emphasis on the romance in here, we have the romance between our 3 characters, Jory, Kai, and Asher. And honestly, it is a very, 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 very slow burn. If you are looking for spice before like the 85% mark, this book might not be for you. But once the spice hits, it is so good. I literally like, it was incredible. Okay, their actual like first spicy scene was so delicious, but every single small moment that leads up to that throughout the entire rest of the book, because it happens so late, but it feels so worth it because along the way you get these little like sprinklings of interactions between them that tell you that there are feelings. It tells you there's attraction, and it gives you a little hint at what's to come. We get some really, really memorable moments between different pairings of them, some between Kai and Asher, others between Asher and Jory, others between Jory and Kai. And just like when the 3 of them are all together, you can tell the tension is so thick and the attraction is so heavy, but I don't think any of them really know what to do with it for a long time. And so getting to see the build up, the payout's incredible. It is so worth it. And I loved this book so much. I can't even put into words. Like, this could be elevated to like one of the 6-star status types of books for me, which I didn't expect. I knew I was gonna love it. I honestly had a really good feeling I was going to love this book a lot, but I had no idea how much. And I'm speechless. Like, this was so good. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed, and I won't stop thinking about this for a long time. But the problem is that I have a lot more books on my list that I need to be getting to, so I do have to put this one down for now. It is going out of sight, but certainly not out of mind, because I will be thinking about it on the daily for a while. I have a good feeling that this book could end up being a contender for favorite books of this year, and we're only in January. which is great. Also really scary and exciting. So that was incredible. And like I had said before, that book I had selected to read because Vanessa from Read with Dr. B had put it on a favorites list, and I have aligned with Vanessa before, so this wasn't surprising either. But I'm just so glad that this one ended up working out super well. But moving on to the next book, I did end up picking up Atmosphere last night. I mentioned I had finished Warrior Princess Assassin late last night, and I really just wanted to keep reading. Like, I was in the zone, so I picked up my next book, and I'm reading Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this book so far has such an interesting setup. I admittedly do not have a single clue what the plot of this book is. Typically, before I go into a book, I like to have an idea. I like to at least like read the synopsis a little bit and get just like an inkling of what's going to be happening to like guide myself along the way. I have literally no idea what's going on in here. And I'm gonna be totally real with you. I've been so not blind to this book, but I knew I wanted to read it at some point, and so I just kind of have avoided seeing or reading anything about it. And so up until the dedication page where NASA is mentioned, I honestly didn't even realize this book was about space. Now I know it's called Atmosphere, but in my brain, I use the word atmosphere in my normal day-to-day, not to mean like the spatial, like the NASA related space atmosphere around the earth, but more of like an atmosphere, an area surrounding something. And so I personally thought that the atmosphere, it just didn't occur to me that it was about literal space, but I am finding out very quickly that this is going to be about space. So I am already, I want to say probably like 20%, maybe close, and I'm really enjoying the story so far. We're getting to see a couple of characters who are involved in NASA, in space travel, and right off the jump, we have a disaster occurring, and Joan, our main character, is on Capcom, so she's literally communicating with the space shuttle that is experiencing some issues, and we are going to see things unfold. But we start with this like tragic, exciting setup of something terrible happening in space, and then we jump back in time, and we're going to kind of go back and forth between like watching these astronauts train and prepare for their journey, but there's also a love story that is going to be wrapped up in here. And so far I haven't even seen too much of it, just like the hinting, just getting the idea of what's to come, and I'm so excited to see it, especially knowing how things are going to play out later and how that relationship is going to play into the tragedy that is occurring from chapter 1. So I'm really excited to continue in this book. I'm also fully prepared because I know people have been saying that they've cried during this book, and so I'm fully prepared for an emotional breakdown if necessary. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm really excited to be going back into this book today. Honestly, with how quickly I was reading it last night, I feel pretty confident I might be able to finish this today. Unfortunately, I am still waiting on the audiobook for Enchanted Greenhouse, so if I finish this before I get the audiobook in, I may have to pick another book for the interim. But for now, we're gonna focus on getting this book read today, and I will check in with you a little bit later, and we'll see how our astronauts are doing. Oh my god, I know that I said I was prepared to have an emotional reaction to this, but I don't think I could have prepared myself for what happened in this book. It was simply incredible. It was stunning. It was a roller coaster. I feel like my brain and my heart and all of my emotions were like on overdrive by the end of this book. I was so invested. I literally could not tear my eyes from the page. I am simply obsessed. I think this was incredible. This is a 5-star read, and I'm gonna get into why, because there's just so much to love about this story. And like my last read was also 5 stars, but this one definitely feels a lot different. Obviously the tone is different too, but this just has so many like poignant types of things to focus on and messages that were just so important to have, and I loved getting to see how it was all folded up into this story about space and NASA and women and being awesome, and I just absolutely loved this. First of all, at its core, this is a love story between Joan and Vanessa, and it's very obvious early on that they have some sort of relationship. But in chapter 1, we know that Vanessa is in space on a space shuttle that is having an emergency, and the entire book is going to end up showing us what's going on and how the goal is to get as many of the astronauts who were on that shuttle back to Earth safe and sound. But we also know that things are very risky, they're very dangerous. They knew it was a risk going into space in the first place. It's a very dangerous type of, thing to be a part of, but they are trying their best to get these people back to Earth. However, at the same time, we are also getting to go back in time to watch these characters go through the training programs and become the professionals, become the astronauts, and get to the point where they get to go on these missions. And along the way, we get to watch the relationship between Joan and Vanessa unfold, and how these two women are exploring a relationship in the 80s, where a relationship between two women was definitely not something that would have been shared super publicly, especially for two people who were very much in the public image. Being a part of NASA, they were definitely at the forefront of a lot of attention, and so they had to be very conscious of that. And the conversations that were had, even the nuanced way it was approached, I think was so brilliant, getting to see it from this deep heartfelt position of these women just having so much love for each other, but having to go through regular life in a time where that was not something that was typically shown. And on top of that, they're not just two women who are in love with each other and have to hide that for a long time, but they are also women in a space program where at this time they were among some of the first groups and the first teams to include women in NASA, to be included in these groups that get to travel into space or even just train in general. So having these conversations about women and what they're capable of, and getting to see the women, the very, very strong women in this book, get to advance in their careers and be so strong and confident, but have so many different personalities working together. It was incredible. And on top of that, we get this incredible love story. But because we are jumping back and forth between the two timelines, present day with the current emergency and the past of getting to lead up to this, we also get to see how much these two people mean to each other when things are going wrong in the present timeline. And when I tell you the ending of this book absolutely had me in tears, I am not kidding. I thought maybe as I approached getting closer to what I assumed would be an emotional ending, I was like, you know what? I can do this. I'm gonna stay strong. It's not gonna get me. I was wrong. It got me. It definitely got me, and I ended this book in tears, and it was honestly the best feeling. It was so good. The writing is incredible. I have read from this author before, so this was not a surprise, but the writing is incredible. The story was incredible. The relationship was incredible, and I just loved everything that was happening in this. And I absolutely understand why this was on a lot of people's favorites lists for 2025 because it was so good. And yeah, I can't believe, first of all, that I read the majority of this book all day today, but just the fact that this book exists, and it was so good. I also ended up picking up a signed copy from my local indie last year, which is why I have the physical copy, and boy am I glad that I managed to get this copy, because having a signed edition of this is incredible. And also I just have to mention that having the end pages with like the Starry Night, the constellation type of deal, best choice ever. Absolutely loved it. This book is incredible. And I can't believe that I have already had 2 5-star reads during this, so now the pressure is on because I have to pick a new book. So we're gonna grab the Plinko board and pick my next read and hope that I can find yet another 5-star read. Alright, so Atmosphere was book number 1 last time, so I do have to replace my number 1 book for the Plinko board, and the one I'm going to throw in now is Bourbon and Lies by Victoria Wilder, and we are going to go ahead and do the next Plinko drop to see what book is up next on my list. Book number 3 is going to be Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. Now this book, I have been anticipating reading this for a very long time. It's been on numerous TBRs since the release of the book. I do have the first edition, so you can tell I've had this book for a very long time and I haven't read it yet, but now is the time. Now this book is on my list for 2 different people right now. I have this book selected because of Mel Lenore Reads. I know that she loved this book and I've heard her talk about it a lot, but the The other person that I am also picking this for is Samantha Donovan, who this was also on her top books list, and I am super excited to try this out as a fun romantasy. I have not read from Devney Perry before, so this will be a new author for me, but also I just have heard so many good things and I cannot wait to try this book. So next up is going to be Shield of Sparrows. I'm still waiting on the Enchanted Greenhouse, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I have the audiobook for this one already, plus the physical, so we're going to dive in immediately. And by immediately, I mean tomorrow morning because it's really late right now. But here is my next read, and of course, I will keep you updated along the way. I'm about to head into the office, but I could not go without giving an update because Shield of Sparrows has quite literally taken over my brain power. I have been consumed by this book so far, and I have already made it 52% of the way into this book, and I've only been reading it since yesterday. Something absolutely overtook me, and I could not put the book down. Now, I do think it reads relatively quickly, and I have the audiobook from Hoopla and also the physical, so doing that definitely helps, but I simply can't believe how quickly this book is going by, and like part of me wants to be happy for that because I'm loving it so much, but the other part of it is like I love it so much I don't want it to be going by so fast. But I am absolutely obsessed with the story so far, so this is going very, very well. At about the 50% mark, we're following Odessa, who ends up having to enter into an arranged marriage that she was not expecting to have to do. She is taking the part that her sister was always raised to play, so she finds herself in the situation where she is in this arranged marriage and has to then travel with her new husband to his kingdom and is tasked with learning about this kingdom and the prince and the king. But unfortunately, nobody trusts her, so she's really struggling with learning anything and, you know, finding out any of their secrets or anything like this because nobody trusts her. So she is constantly doing things that don't earn her any more trust, but she's also just trying to make herself fit in a little bit more because she also is seeking this sense of belonging and home in a place where she didn't necessarily feel that before she left her own kingdom. So I love getting to see like the inner workings of Odessa's mind as she is processing her own behaviors and what's going on and like the things that she's trying to accomplish while also genuinely just trying to be herself and figure out what her place is there. While she is in an arranged marriage with the prince, she also has this thorn in her side, the Guardian, who is this like almost mythical type of hero who seems to have some mysterious powers, but he also is just like super strong and able to defeat like a bajillion monsters at once. And so he is just constantly like her shadow, like over her shoulder, looking out for her, protecting her, saving her life. And she definitely feels an attraction to him, but doesn't want to because he has these stories that people tell about him and how ruthless he is and how dangerous he is. And so she is taking that into account when she's trying to like keep herself strong. But they keep finding themselves in precarious situations where she's in danger and he has to save her, and it is so good. The tension is really good. The action is really exciting. I am learning things along the way as she is learning them, and it is so much fun to get to watch the adventure, but also just knowing that like she is constantly being watched because nobody trusts her. And so every time she does something, I'm like, girl, why? But I love it. I love that sort of pressure, and I love the unknown of like what is going to be happening. And there's so much about this kingdom that they are now allied with that she is literally in the kingdom, and like there's so much that's unknown about it. And so I'm really excited to see what I can learn by the end of this book. I do know that there is going to be more beyond this book. I know that it's at least the first book in a series of some undetermined length. I don't actually know if it's a duology or a trilogy or whatever it is, but I know that there's going to be more after this, so I'm trying to also prepare myself for some sort of cliffhanger. But so far this book is incredible. I am loving it, and as I am headed out the door to the office now, I'm hoping I can get a little bit of time to read like over lunch break or something because I absolutely need to devour this book even more. The fact that I read more than 50% of it just yesterday makes me feel like, oh well, I can absolutely finish it today. I'm not sure that that's going to happen just because of how busy today is going to be, but I'm still going to try. So here I go, heading off to work and hoping that I can get some Shield of Sparrows reading in because this book is absolutely a masterpiece so far. I am just having the best time. This book, what do I even say? How do I express what this book did to me in its final moments? I finished this book at work, thankfully when nobody else was in the office, because I was verbally shouting at the book, audibly gasping at the things that were happening by the end of this, and like I was not chill about it at all. So I'm really glad I was alone in the office, because I don't know how I would have hidden my reactions had I been around other people. This book was so good. This was an immediate 5, dare I say 6-star book. I can't stop thinking about it, and I don't know what to do with myself now. This book was everything. It consumed me fully, head to toe, heart and soul. Every single part of me belongs to this book now. Some of the reasons that this book was elevated so much more in my mind is because by the end of the book, there are so many, I don't even want to call them like twists. There's just so many big reveals of things that are going on behind the scenes that you had no idea. There were some things that I was able to predict, things I saw coming from a long way away, and felt so at peace. I felt so happy and proud of myself when they were revealed to be true of what I thought. But there were other things that I could not have seen coming, and it was absolutely so much fun to get to discover it and to see it play out in real time through the story. It was so much fun. There's also so much action, because one of the main things that's going on in this book is that there are these creatures, these like magical / just like really aggressive monsters and creatures. They call them monsters that are essentially hunting people. Like they are showing up and killing people. So a lot of the characters that we meet in here are like soldiers that are going out to hunt these monsters. And so the monsters become a very central point for the story, and getting to see all of the monster hunting, the fighting, that kind of stuff is so exciting. Like the energy is so high. It is just it's so delicious and fun, and I loved every moment of it. But there's also some connections with these monsters that just make the story feel so much deeper. And we get to see this dive into potentially like, do we even know where these monsters came from, how they became the way that they are, and all of that. It's just so good, and it's laid out perfectly so that when you are approaching the end of this book, it feels like you are literally rolling down a slope. It is just picking up speed, and like right up until the end, oh my goodness, you have no idea what's about to happen. And by literally the last page of this book, I was like, what? What? And now I need the next book. I need it like I need sunshine, like I need water, and I don't know what to do until the next book is out. But for now, this book was an absolute masterpiece. I ate it up every single second of the way, and I'm really sad to put it down now, but I can rest knowing that it was a 5-star read, maybe even better than that. I finally got the audiobook in from Libby for the Enchanted Greenhouse. This was literally the first book that I had selected, and I haven't been able to read it yet. However, I finally got the audio, and I did actually start reading it as well. And so I am about a third of the way through, so I can give a little bit of an update on this one as well, which is exciting. So this is the sequel to The Spell Shop, and I gave that book 5 stars. I loved it. It's a cozy fantasy with a little bit of a romance thrown in, and it was absolutely incredible. I loved it. This book is set in the same world, but it is going to follow a different character, and we get to see a little bit of backstory for something that we had learned about in The Spell Shop, which I think is exciting. It's a character that was not in that story, but she played a part in some of the events that transpired throughout The Spell Shop. So in this story, we follow Terlu, who was a librarian, but she was punished when she brought a spider plant to life, aka Kaz, who was in The Spell Shop, and she was punished by being made into a statue. Now comes the future timeline where she is awoken from her statue status, and she finds herself on an island that has like greenhouse upon greenhouse upon greenhouse. I don't even know. There were like hundreds of them, I think. And she meets the gardener who is taking care of these greenhouses, and finds out that the like sorcerer or like the magician that had been responsible for keeping these greenhouses magically upkept and making sure that all the temperatures were stable, and there's just like so much magic that went into creating and maintaining the physical structures, but also the island's magic itself. Magic is starting to fade away because the sorcerer is no longer there, and so Terlu is brought in to hopefully find a way to help bring these greenhouses greenhouses back and kind of revitalize the island, which is very similar to what the spell shop was, where she was basically there to help revitalize their island as well. And this is a very similar story, so it's got a very similar vibe, but we are also getting to see a very sweet interaction between Terlu and Yarrow, the gardener, and we get to see some other really fun magical plants. And it's just like a really sweet kind of, I don't necessarily think it's considered romantasy because the romance is not necessarily like the focal point. The sweet, gentle, cozy magic definitely is, but this like cozy fantasy with romance, it's just a very nice blend, and I'm really, really enjoying myself. It's very calm. It is a really well done audio as well, so I'm really enjoying that. There is snow on the ground outside. I've got my iced chai and a good book. It is simply a wonderful day, so I'm going to jump back into reading, and I will let you know a little bit later how this book is going down the road. Did I plan on finishing this book today? No. But did I accidentally finish it anyway? Yes, I did. I absolutely did. And this was such a fun time. I am giving this book 4 stars. I gave The Spell Shop 5 and this book 4. I do think this one was a little bit slower. I feel like there was a lot happening within the story, but for some reason today, in the fact that I read like 70% of this book today, I feel like there were moments where it slowed down a bit, and by the end I was ready for it to be over. And so I don't remember having that feeling with the first book. So I am giving this one 4 stars, but it was still so fun and so cozy, and I absolutely love the story. Terlu and Yarrow are trying to revitalize these greenhouses and keep them from dying. Well, keep them from continuing to die, because greenhouses have been literally falling apart, and the hundreds of thousands of plants inside these hundreds of greenhouses are dying, and it was Yarrow's job as the sole remaining gardener to keep the plants alive. So when Terlu comes in and is trying to work some magic to try to figure out what went wrong in the first place and try to keep these plants alive, to build the greenhouses back up, it is such a fun story of getting to see them problem solve and try to figure out what the original sorcerer was up to and what he was doing to keep these things alive in the first place. We get a lot of sentient plants in this one, which is super fun because we did have a sentient plant in the spell shop, and Kaz was easily one of the best characters. He was so great. And then this one, we get not just one, but we get a whole host of sentient plants, which are just so cute and so fun. They all have different personalities. Honestly, listening to the audiobook for this one actually reminded me a lot of the experience of listening to the audiobook of TJ Klune's The House in the Cerulean Sea, because of the way that the narrator did so many voices to represent the different characters in that book. As they were kids, a lot of them have different like tones and just like different ways of speaking. And in this one, I feel like the narrator, and it's a completely different narrator, and I feel like they did such a good job in this one of bringing each of these different plants to life, giving them a different voice that was very distinct for each one. It was so much fun. But like ultimately, I just like how it's not high stakes. I mean, it's high stakes for these people because these plants are literally dying if they don't fix the greenhouses and figure out what's going on and what magic had gone wrong. But at the same time, it is a greenhouse. Like, they're trying to plant things and they're cooking, and Yarrow is just like has this passion for cooking and baking, and watching Yarrow and Terlu fall for each other, it's obvious that that's what's happening, but both of them have these very distinct personalities, and you can see the way that they blend so well. I just love these two characters together, and there's so much there's just so much happening, like not even physical action. It's just a lot of drama with emotions and feelings, and feeling like you're not enough or feeling like you're too much, and all of those things get wrapped up into the story, and I just think it was so much fun. So this was an incredible experience. I did take this book from Kristen Crave's books hot books list, and this was definitely a hit. I absolutely love this book, and I am glad that I have the matching Owl Crate version that goes with the Spell Shop one that I had. So I'll just do a little show off of these images because the end pages are stunning. I love getting to see some of the imagery just to bring the story to life, especially because the story was so focused on the natural world, and there is so much beauty in the natural world in general, so getting to see that in some of the artwork too was just so cute, and I loved this book. This was so much fun. 4 stars, but it also means that we do have to pick the next book up on the list. So let's grab the Plinko board and go ahead and figure out what I'm going to be reading up next. Okay, back up with the Plinko board. It is time to go ahead and drop for our next book. Again, I'm not adding anything else to the list. I am just going to work with the selection that I already have. So if I pick a number that's already been dropped for, then oh well, I'm gonna drop it again. So let's go ahead and see what's next. Okay, and it did land in the number 5 spot. Yeah, the chip fell the whole way out of it, but the number 5 spot is going to go to American Rapture by CJ Lead. This was the book that I took from Lexi from Books with Lexi's top books list, and I'm really excited to try this book out. I did go to a book event with this author, so I am really excited to finally get to it. I ended up getting some like cool postcards and stuff that were themed around the book. She even had some like cute little handouts and everything. So this was so fun, and I did end up getting my book signed before I even had a chance to read it. So here's to hoping that I end up really liking this book. I did really like the other book that I had read from CJ Lead, Mayfly, so I have really high hopes for this one, and we are going to jump into this book and hope that Lexi is not going to lead me astray, but let's get reading. So I may or may not have done it again where I accidentally read the entire book without actually giving any updates in the middle. So let's go over my entire review of American Rapture by CJ Lead. Again, this was the book that I picked from Books with Lexi's list, and it came with some warnings. And by came with warnings, I mean Lexi literally said, by the way, there's going to be some things in this book, and I am so glad she warned me, but at the same time, I loved this book. I am giving it 4 stars. I think her warnings were very useful, but I honestly loved some of the things that she had warned me about. I thought that it built this incredible story. So we are going to have a very complicated story in this one. It is an apocalyptic story set in Wisconsin. Our main character, Sophie, is very, very, very sheltered. From a religious standpoint, her parents are very devout, very strict religious Catholic parents. She goes to a private Catholic school. She's very sheltered. She barely knows how her own body works, much less anyone else's bodies. So whenever there's a virus that's going around the states that causes people to go into a frenzy, and before they die, they try to have sex with any and everything that breathes. Yeah, let's just say Sophie is going to be very out of her element, very uncomfortable, and absolutely shocked by what she is going to see. I would say that the number 1 word I can use to describe this book is alarming. The things that happen in here are simply alarming. There is so much body horror, violence, aggression, you name it, it's going on in this book. And like the nature of the virus that I explained, you can probably tell how horrific some of the things are that are going to happen in here. But the base of the story is that Sophie is trying to get to her brother, her twin brother, who is not with her at home when this virus is fully hitting. So she is on a mission to find her brother. And along the way, she is going to find some people that help her, like a policeman or another teenager from her school and from the area, some other strangers that she meets and gets to know, and they all ultimately try to help each other survive in these absolutely heinous times. I love getting to see this group of people kind of become a little bit of a family. They're very protective of each other, and I really love that. Also, there is a dog named Bargus, and he stole my heart the moment he appeared. This book is a testament to the way that like the presence of this dog was truly the thing that got a lot of them through. He was their comfort. He like just stood watch for them and protected them in so many ways. The dog was easily a shining star in this book. I absolutely loved getting to see Bargus throughout the story. And honestly, this book was just so much fun from start to finish. It was gruesome. It was grotesque in so many ways, but I loved it, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that from the beginning, this book gave me the same feeling that I get whenever I'm watching a horror movie, like that never knowing what's around the next turn, and I could see it like a movie in my head, which at times was not what I wanted based on this virus, but I thought it was so much fun. It definitely gave me that feeling of a horror movie, which is great because I love those. I love CJ Lead's writing and the way that she can bring this story to life and tell a story that has a bit of a message without having to sit you down and spell it all out for you. I think this is excellent, and putting it in the backdrop of the apocalypse, so good. It is so good. So that book I am giving 4 stars, and because I finished it, it means it is time to move on to my next one. The thing is, I only have 3 books left on my planned list for this, and it is extremely hard now to get the Plinko board to cooperate and give me one of the numbers that I haven't already picked. So instead of using the Plinko board for my last 3, I'm just going to kind of pick the next one as it comes to me. I think the 2 that I'm deciding between right now is going to be either Obsidian Sky by Jill Astor or The Wind Weaver by Julie Johnson. The Wind Weaver was my selection for Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. She talked endlessly about this book last year, and I already wanted to read it because I had the special edition for it. I just never got around to it. So that one is definitely a possibility. The other option, Obsidian Sky, is the selection from Brie from Before Pause in a Book, and I also really want to read this book. It is a romantasy as well, and I love a romantasy, so both of these options are definitely up in the air. We are just going to see kind of how I'm feeling as I'm jumping into to the next book, because one is an arc that I have on my Kindle and the other one is going to be physical. So I don't know which one I'm going to feel like doing, but those are the two options. Stay tuned for me to make my decision and update you on some progress once I have picked that book. So I have some rather unfortunate news about the book that I have had to DNF, unfortunately, for this. I was really excited to start Obsidian Sky. I had mentioned that I wanted to read it before the official release date, and I did in fact start it before the release date, but unfortunately I made it 25% in and realized that this book is just not for me. So let's go into some of the reasons why, because I feel like stylistically, like the writing itself, the plot, like they had ingredients that were for me, but the execution just was not paying off in my opinion. So let's go over a little bit of it here. As far as the plot goes, this was marketed to be for like fans of Fourth Wing, and yeah, that's because it's like basically a replication of Fourth Wing at the beginning. The setup is like eerily similar. I'm talking, we are set at a war college where the end goal is to bond with a dragon while you are also learning what type of elemental magic you have been blessed with. And so they go through these different like stages of trying to figure out what each student is going to end up being able to do. And our main character is going to struggle with finding out what her ability is going to be. But then of course she is going to find out that her power is like this super rare kind of magic that can occasionally exhibit itself through lightning power, where the MMC also wields a super powerful fire and shadow magic, and both our FMC and MMC are going to have the two most powerful bonded pair of dragons in the entire realm. So all of this is going to sound very, very familiar. And that's not to say it's like automatically a bad thing, because like being at a war college, having dragons, like studying things like those are not unique to Fourth Wing specifically, but a lot of the things working together, even the dynamics between the different characters and like the way that these characters were acting, a lot of it felt very, very, very similar. So on top of all of that, the plot also, I was very confused a lot of the time, because chapter 1 literally drops you right in the middle of the action and you are supposed to find your foothold right away. Like there's literally like chapter 1, you are dropped in and they are watching people bonding with their dragons and you are left to piece together what this world looks like. And some of it does get explained as the chapters go on, but it really felt like I was floundering to like connect the pieces. And I'm a very visual reader, so I like things to be explained very clearly. And even if it's not, like I just need to be able to understand it very well, and like I was not for a good portion of the beginning. The writing style here is also like, it's just not a style that I'm used to and not a style that I personally vibe with a lot. I don't want to say it's flowery writing. I just think there were a lot of very vivid descriptions for things that I don't think needed to have vivid descriptions. Like I said, I'm a visual reader, so descriptions of things really, really help me to form the mental movie that's going through my brain. But the thing is, I feel like there were descriptions for things that didn't need to be described as detailed as they were, and yet there were other things that were left to be like so vague that I was like, I have literally no idea what is happening. Like it was just a weird imbalance of description for me personally and the way that my brain works while I'm reading. So just like was not vibing. The other major issue I had was probably more of like an editing, but definitely a writing style too. This book is written in third person POV, so we are not in any one person's head, but we are focusing mostly on Thalen, our FMC. However, the POV switches to Thorn where like it's almost like the camera, it's like if you were watching a movie where like the camera's focused on Thalen, you're following her story, everything's great, and then all of a sudden the camera just like flips and you're following Thorn, and there's like not really a soft transition. There's no section break or page break to like notate that we're switching POVs. So it's like you're talking about Thalen having a conversation with her friends at her lunch table, and they're like in the middle of a conversation, and then all of a sudden the next paragraph is literally like Thorn saying somebody to the person next to him, and I'm like, whoa, when did we switch? Like, is he sitting with her? No. It was just the switching of the POVs felt very sudden and it was a little jarring. So the combination of like I was just not vibing with plot, the characters, the writing style, like so much was working against me with this one that I decided not to keep going. However, that means that I can jump into my next book. I don't know what that's going to be though, so stay tuned for that update, because yeah, I'm just not quite sure which book I want to pick up next. I still have a couple of options, so we'll decide and let you know in the next clip, because I can't think. I need to take a break from this book for a second, and I will be back once I've picked my next book. Happy Sunday morning and happy update day. It's been a couple of days since I actually had an update to make on my reading progress, and that's because I got sidetracked in reading some other books that were not for this video. Oops. But I am back and I have an update to make. I have my iced chai in one hand and a good book in the other, which means it is setting up to be a very good weekend day, a day to relax, day to read, and hopefully be a little bit productive a little bit later in the day. But for now, let's talk about the book that I am currently reading, The Windweaver by Julie Johnson. Let me put my drink down before I accidentally spill it, because definitely a possibility. So The Windweaver is a romantasy about a girl who, at the beginning of the book, she is being held hostage. She was captured by the army, by like this troop of men, and she is being held captive by them, and she is going to be hung. They have told her, she is aware that she is approaching her final hours, and right up until the end, she believes that she is going to be dying. And then the commander shows up from outside of this troop. This other guy shows up, takes a look at her, finds out what's going on, and he kills the entire troop of guys and takes her, and they are on the road. She has no idea where she's going, really who she's with, what's going on, why she was targeted, other than the fact that she is a halfling, and she grew up in the Midlands where halflings were definitely like a social pariah, and being a halfling was definitely part of the contributing factor of why she had gotten captured in the first place. So now she is wondering, what am I getting myself into? Who is this guy that's taken me? Why is he treating me like a prisoner? But like, also, why is he protective over me? What's going on? What does he know that I don't? And I am a third of the way through this book so far, and I am really, really loving just everything. Honestly, I'm loving everything that's going on. The dynamic between these two characters, Rhea and Scythe, because you can feel the tension and the anger radiating off of him, and he even says it out loud. He's literally like, you are so annoying. Like, why am I the one that's stuck with you right now? But at the same time, she is this very strong character that like, she fires back at people. Like, she has a mouth on her that she's not willing to take anything from anyone. Like, if somebody says something to her, she is going to reply with snark, and I love it. I love her attitude towards everything. She also just has this very realistic way of seeing her situation, of being like, well, you've had me thrown over the back of your horse for the past 4 hours, so like, what else could go wrong? Like, those kinds of attitudes that I think are so much fun for this like fiery type of FMC. But seeing the two of them together where they do bicker back and forth, it is so much fun. And where I am now, there are some other characters that have come into the fold a little bit, and so I get to see her interact with other people. That has been really, really fun. And I have gotten to learn a little bit more about Rhea and who she is and what she is capable of. So I think this is going to be a really, really incredible book. The fact that I have read this so fast, I read, like I said, I'm a third of the way through, and I'm pretty sure I read about half of that portion just last night before going to bed, and it was a struggle to put the book down, but I was so tired, I knew I had to so that I could wake up this morning to read some more. But like, this book is so good, and the pacing is incredible. I feel like we have been moving. So far, it's been a lot of travel and journey because we haven't quite gotten to the destination yet, but it's been so fun getting to see the things that happen to them on the road that like, the pacing has been so good. This is an incredible book so far, so I'm really excited to keep going. Do I think I can finish this book today? I don't know. I want to say it's possible, because it absolutely is. This was what, like a 17-hour audio, I think, and I have the audio from Libby. Yeah, it's a very long audiobook, and it is a chunkier book here, but it reads super fast, so I do think it's possible I could finish this today. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I will obviously be keeping you up to date as I go, because I have a feeling I'm going to end up having some really strong reactions to this book just by how, like, I don't want to say obsessive, but just like how captivating the story has been so far. I just feel really, really strongly that this is going to turn out well. This was the pick from Cassidy's favorites list, and she talked about this so much when she read it last year. It has literally been on my mental TBR because of Cassidy. Well, I also got the Fairy Loot edition, so like, I was going to try to read it at some point anyway, but hearing the way that Cassidy was absolutely losing her mind over this book, I definitely knew that I needed to read this, so I'm super happy that it is on my list, and I think Mel put it on her favorites list too. So honestly, there's a lot of good things that I've been hearing, and so far, they are proving to be true. So I'm going to jump back into this one, see how far I can make it today, and see how much more I can fall in love with Rhea and Scythe and everything that's going on in The Windweaver. So yeah, I did in fact end up finishing this book yesterday. I did not really anticipate actually being able to get through the entire thing, but here's how yesterday went. Okay, so it was a Sunday. I obviously was not at work, and I was able to sit down and read for quite a while. Now, here's how yesterday went. Okay, so it was a Sunday, it was a day off, so I didn't have to do any work, didn't really have any distractions, and on top of all of that, because that's just like a normal Sunday for me, but yesterday what was different was that it was the Super Bowl, and I did not care about either of the teams that were playing. I don't care about football in general. It didn't matter what team it was. I honestly would not have cared unless it was the Steelers, because then my husband would have cared a lot and I would have had to pay attention for that. But like, we did not care. He was watching the game. I was in my book. I was not paying attention whatsoever. The only thing that actually pulled me from my book was if I kind of had this like feeling that the commercial that was on was interesting or had someone that I recognized, then I would kind of look up from the book, or specifically if the Backstreet Boys were involved, which actually was way more often than I thought it was going to be for like a random year of the Super Bowl. But I'm not complaining because I love the Backstreet Boys. And as a little fun fact about me and how much I do love the Backstreet Boys and their music, there is this really funny kind of like running joke situation between me and my husband whenever we are in the car, especially for like long drives. Just in general in cars, if I'm not the driver, I tend to fall asleep pretty quickly. And it's a running joke with my husband that anytime he's driving and I am falling asleep in the passenger seat, if the radio is on and a Backstreet Boys song comes on the radio, it does not matter how long I have been asleep, how deeply I seem to be asleep. If I have even an inkling that a Backstreet Boys song is on the radio, I am awake. And he notices because he'll look over and my eyes are suddenly open because I just have this like weird radar. It happened last night too with watching the Super Bowl commercials. I was listening to my audiobook and reading physically in this book, and I still was able to have this radar for any time the Backstreet Boys were about to be on screen or were on screen. It was incredible. But all of that to say, really the Backstreet Boys was the only thing that tore me away from this book because I ended up reading it to completion. I did have to read past the end of the Super Bowl, so it did take me a while, but the fact that I was loving this book so much that I quite literally sat on my butt for like 4 hours straight and read this is so good. Now that I've gone on enough of a tangent about anything else, let's talk about the book itself. I do feel like this book had a really, really strong balance between world building and politics slash fantasy plot lines with also the romance plot line. I think all of this blended really, really well. So it was a very strong story in general. I did really like both of our main characters, which is also really good. Plus there is some really fun found family dynamics going on with some of the people that Rhea ends up coming across and meeting and getting to know. And there were some moments approaching towards the end of the book. I had an inkling I knew it was going to happen, and I was really hoping it wasn't going to happen, but predictably it did. But it's one of those things that like the reason I reacted so strongly to something that happened in the book was because of how well these characters and their relationships had been fleshed out. Like everything just felt so natural, and the characters genuinely felt like they cared about each other, which I love. And all of this with the backdrop of what is going on in the world, which is that there are a lot of humans who just don't like the Fae or the halflings. They don't want them existing. They don't want them in power. And so there is going to be a bit of a power play between different kingdoms of basically the Fae versus the non-Fae. And so we're going to get to see that play out quite a bit, while also Rhea is coming into her understanding of her own power as the Wind Weaver. It should not be a spoiler that the main character is going to discover that she is in fact the Wind Weaver. And it literally only has one person at any given time that is the Wind Weaver. And so her having to come into these powers and understand what that means and the role that she plays is so important. And she has such a strong personality. One, she's super snarky. I mentioned before, like the conversations, the banter that she has with Penn is literally salivatingly good. Like their banter is iconic. But on top of that, like she has this snarkiness to her and this attitude, but she also thrives on empathy. Like she feels for other people. When she sees violence, she hates it. She does not want to participate in it. And every time she has to be involved, it takes a little bit of something from her. And I feel like that's something that I just love seeing in these books, that you don't have to be cold-hearted and unfeeling in order to be a main character, in order to be strong and powerful. And she is able to try very hard to come to a balance with all of these things. And it just is playing out so well in this book. I really, really loved it. Plus the relationship between Rhea and Penn is just So good. And also the sequel to this book is coming out this year, and I know what it's called, which means I am very intrigued with what it means for the sequel, because we basically know from this book that there are essentially 4 main elemental powers, but like there's 4 people who have like the strongest ability, and they are the ones that are super rare. And so far we have only met 3 of those 4, and book 2 is going to be about one of the 3 that we do know, but it's definitely not the one that I would expect. And so I'm really intrigued with how we are going to bleed into this other character for book 2 and kind of get to know their situation a bit more and like how this all wraps together. So this was such a good book. I am giving it 5 stars, but I do want to say I think this is more of like a 4.5. I feel like there's a lot of elements of this book that I will probably forget in the time that it takes me to get to book 2 once it is out, since it's not even out yet. This book, like, I don't want to say that it's not memorable. I just feel like it's more than a 4-star read, but it's not one of my like over the top 6 stars kind of deal. So like it is definitely worthy of 5 stars. I do think it's closer to 4.5, but this was so much fun. And I also absolutely love that I have the Fairy Loot special edition because this is so stunning. And the imagery in here, I actually did turn to these pages and look at them a few times while I was listening to the audiobook, because the back page also has artwork for the 2 main guys, the other 2 elemental fae that we get to meet in the book. I love that we have these pictures in the back from this edition. It is absolutely stunning. Fairy Loot outdoes themselves sometimes with these designs, and this is definitely one of those times. But because I am now finished with this book and have to give a huge shout out to Cassidy and Mel for having this on their top list, it is time to move on to my next book. And I do want to say I am going to go ahead and decide that this is my last book that I'm doing. There are so many other ones that I could choose from, but I did end up landing on one more book that I want to read for this video. And the very last one is going to be Slow Gods by Claire North. This one I took from Leandra, the TBR Zero's favorites list. She did kind of like an award system, and this one was so highly ranked and talked about. I absolutely love Leandra. This book intimidates me a little bit, so I'm scared of it, but I do have the special edition, and because I own it, it works for my physical TBR goals for this year and reading all of the books that I own, especially the special editions. So this one was the perfect addition to the list, and I am kind of sad that I left it for last because of how intimidating it is, knowing that it is more of a sci-fi kind of story, I believe, since it came from a sci-fi special edition box. But I am going to jump into this one. I have the audiobook from Libro.fm and obviously the physical one here, so I am set to jump into it. Like I said, I'm a little intimidated, but I am really excited to see if Leandra's hype for this book is going to live up to it. So let's jump into reading, and I will check in later with the very last book that I am going to be reading here. Alrighty, so this is not the ending that I was hoping for this video. However, I do have an update on Slow Gods, and I have some really unfortunate news. I DNF'd this book at 12%. This is one of the quickest DNFs I think I have made in a very long time, and it is just because I realized very early on in this book that this was a not for me kind of book. I don't think I'm smart enough for whatever was going on in here. This is so heavily sci-fi. It is very like speculative sci-fi, it almost feels like. I genuinely was like, I feel dumb. I can't process what's going on in the beginning of this book. What I understand just from what I did read was that it was this guy that the planet that he's on, which I don't think is Earth, this planet that he is on, they were sent this message from space that was saying that in this like determined amount of time there were gonna be like bombs and stuff that were gonna destroy and basically completely obliterate the entire planet. So they were given a warning, and then of course it comes true, and literally bombs are dropping, places are exploding, people are dying, and I guess there were people that were saved and were put on these like rescue pod ships, I guess, and sent off. And then this is where it really loses me, because there's like chapters talking about how the character is dead but not dead, that like this isn't how I died, but then like a couple chapters later I was like, okay, I've died 3 times now. I'm like, I don't know what's going on in this book. Then the character becomes a pilot of some sort, part and is like assigned to be doing these like pilot duties, but I don't really understand what is going on. I don't know what they're actually trying to accomplish. I'm not sure if they're on a spaceship or if they're like on another planet now. I understand that the character dies a couple of times. I'm really not sure. All in all, I am the worst person to listen to about what was going on in this book because I don't know. I truly read 12% of this book and have no clue what was going on. Trying to explain it, no, I can't. I literally can't, which is how I determined it is not for me. And that's okay because I was able to determine that early enough that I was not going to spend the rest of my time reading being confused. And I was listening to the audiobook while reading physically, and I was slowing the audiobook down progressively as I was going, trying to see if like maybe I just need to like slow down and focus a little bit more. But no, the vocabulary, the terminology, everything that was going on in here, I was not following it, not even a little bit. I am not smart enough for whatever's going on in here. Do I think that there's probably a really cool concept and maybe even like a deeper philosophical type of thing that's going on towards the end? Probably. It probably does have a really cool idea that's like working through the story. I just simply can't get through it. So unfortunately, this was a very, 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 very quick DNF and I haven't looked back. But the unfortunate part is that this was the last book I was going to be reading and obviously didn't turn out very well. So we're just gonna put that one down and just do a quick recap because I can't believe I had so many other good books. Even though that last one did not turn out, I feel like I had so many successful reads in general from all of this. Like I literally had 5 stars, 4 stars, like this was crazy. And the fact that only a couple of them didn't work out means that 1, I am good at telling what books I think I might actually like, and 2, it means that I have a pretty similar taste to some of the people that I love to watch on Booktube, which is super exciting for me. And now, instead of going back through all the books, because you already heard me talk about them, I do want to try to decide what my favorite one is. And here's the thing, I think I've come to a tie. I genuinely don't know at this moment how to pit these 2 books against each other because I enjoyed them for like different sorts of reasons and they both sent me on a roller coaster. So I'm not sure how to tell you which one of these is my favorite, but I did narrow it down to my top 2 choices for this video. It's either going to be Shield of Sparrows or Warrior Princess Assassin. Here's the thing. I feel like Shield of Sparrows is very much aligned with a lot of the things that I am typically reading. So this one was not surprising that I was going to love it. And I was texting Mel while I was reading it and kind of unloading all of my all caps messages of like everything that was going on and my reactions to it. And so getting to do that, I feel like when I am able to talk to somebody while I'm reading it, it kind of elevates the experience of reading it. And I still love the story and I still remember a lot about it. The thing is, Warrior Princess Assassin, on the other hand, I don't think I've stopped thinking about this book. It is literally so good. It is so fun. And like, I have not stopped thinking about these characters and being excited for what comes next. Obviously, I'm excited for the sequels to both of these books, and both sequels come out this year, which is really good news for me because I don't have to wait a super long time. But trying to pit these against each other, it's just like the romance in this one, but like the world building of this one, and like there's just so many elements that are going on that I don't know how to pit them actually to like figure out which is number 1. So these are going to be tied. Vanessa and Mel and Sam all have incredible taste, obviously, because that's where I got these recommendations, and I'm so happy. This was such a successful video, even though I didn't love them all. I mean, come on, look at all of these books. I read so many books for this, and it was just all around an incredible experience. I want to thank you for joining me along the ride here because I realized this was a very long journey, but very worth it because I found some incredible reads and I absolutely loved it. I would love to hear your thoughts if you have read any of these or if you are looking to read them as well. If you have not checked out any of the people that I mentioned in this video, all of the other creators, absolutely go watch their videos, some of their like favorites from last year, and see what kind of similar taste you might have because I found that I align so well with so many of these and it's just such a good discovery to make. So definitely check out all of these people. I will have them all linked in the description and matched to the book that I had read for them so it's easy to tell. But I am so glad I did this and I definitely want to do things like this more often and just see how my taste aligns with other people. But as always, I am super thankful that you are here, that you support me, and that you will be supporting all of the people that I had mentioned in here as well. I love being here. I love what I do and I love the people that I get to meet through it. So this has been so much fun. Thanks for being here and I hope that I will see you in the next video. Bye!